Hello, thank you for joining me today. My name is Andrew Stinson. I'm a Senior Consulting Engineer with Firefly. This is our Cisco DNA Center series, and today we're going to be talking about the software image management. We're going to look at what the software image management platform is, and we're going to see it in action within our lab. So software image management is the way that we can centrally manage the software images for devices that are in our DNA Center inventory. It gives us a way to do reporting on our environment and lets us see what devices are running the golden image we've selected for that site or that platform or that role. With DNA Center, we can have ITSM integration, and that includes the software image management workflow. So we can require approval through the change management process before the image can actually be deployed and activated. The software image management update process gives us the potential to schedule deployment and activation of our images separately, or do an immediate deployment and activation. By going through this process in DNA Center, we can be assured that we're going to follow the best practices when we're deploying the software. There's going to be pre and post checks that are run before distribution, and then also before and after the activation. And we're going to be able to go in and take a look at the differences between those checks. The software image management has two different parts that we're going to look at today. The first is the image repository, and then the second is the actual software image update workflow. The image repository is where we're going to actually manage the software versions for our platforms in inventory in DNA Center. We're going to be able to manage the software images, SMUs, subpackages, ROM images, etc. Through this dashboard. We can also define external repositories. DNA Center itself is a repository for these images, but if we have a distributed environment, it may make sense to have other repositories closer to the destination for these updates. When we bring a device into inventory, the software image management repository is going to let us know what software images are the latest within specific trains and what the suggested image is for the platforms in inventory. We can download the images from Cisco's site through DNA Center automatically, or we can upload them from our local workstations, or import them from device and inventory. In any case, DNA Center is going to perform some integrity verification and will let us know that the device is verified and is a good image file. The image repository dashboard is where we're going to define the golden images for our environment. And those golden images can be defined by the network site. We are defining them by the platform. We can define them by the role, whether they're a border router, whether they're access device. We can also use device tags in order to assign specific golden images to devices we add these tags to. When we define a golden image, DNA Center will run a pre-check on the devices on that platform and in those network sites, and it will let us know if there's any issues with the devices. It's also going to let us know if the devices are out of compliance, meaning they are not running that golden image. And it's important to note that when we do this work inside our image repository, the devices are not going to automatically be updated. It's a separate workflow that we're going to have to go through to update them. What will happen if we set something as a golden image, if we onboard a device through plug and play onboarding, then that golden image will be available for deployment on that device. Now, the pre-checks that are run for the software image updates is going to make sure that the device can accept the new software image, both for distribution and then for that it's ready for activation. So it's going to make sure that DNA Center has connectivity to the device through HTTPS or SCP, that it can access the repository, the device can access the repository to download the image. It's going to make sure the NTP configuration is correct and that the clocks are synchronized. It's going to check that there's enough disk space. If the device supports cleanup, it'll attempt to do a cleanup to free up space if it's required, and go through all the various other checks that should be done before any upgrade process. Whenever we've activated the golden image, we can then choose to deploy the software image to our environment, and that's the software image update process. The first thing we're going to want to do is schedule maintenance on our device. Now, this is a new feature that was added in DNA Center 2.3 that allows us to create a maintenance window for a device, and during that window, alerts won't be created on that device because it's going to be rebooting. The device is connected to it, will lose connectivity. It just prevents us from getting a lot of alerts during that update process. We then have the image update workflow. We choose the device and then we say that we want to do the software update. And we're going to have two phases of that. The first is distribution. We're going to be able to choose the pre and post checks, and there's several that are in there by default. We can also create our own custom checks. And then we can schedule the distribution. And it can be scheduled separately from the activation. We can either do it immediately or we can schedule it for a certain maintenance window that we can get all of the images distributed to our environment, and then we can come back and later schedule the activation. Activation has its own pre and post checks that are run, and they're compared after the fact. And it can be scheduled separately as well. It can be run immediately after distribution also. Once we've scheduled the distribution and activation, we can go in and take a look at our image update status page. That lets us know what checks have been run. It lets us know where it is in the process. And then after the fact, we can go in and take a look at the image update process, look at all of the pre and post checks. We can look at the difference between those pre and post checks, make sure everything looks good. Okay, here we are in our lab. I'm in DNA Center. You just go to the main menu, Design and Image Repository, and that takes us to the summary dashboard. In the summary, we're going to see just a breakdown of the different images that we're running. And then we see the platforms or the families of the devices I have in inventory. This imported images name here, this is where we can manage the images that are already in DNA Center. DNA Center doesn't automatically download images. We tell it what images we want to download. It also will not automatically delete images it's not using anymore. So this is where we can go in and choose to delete the images. I'm going to be setting the golden image for my Catalyst 9300, so I'm going to select that switch. Now you notice here I'm in my DNAC HQ site. I'm going to be setting this golden image just for this site. I could come up to global and define a golden image that would be for my entire environment. In this case, however, I'm just picking my one site. And when we take a look at our images here, we're going to see a list of the software images that have been imported or downloaded in the past. We can see that these have been verified, so DNA Center has checked to make sure that the file is intact and it is the correct file. We see the different advisories, security advisories, critical or high advisories, and we can take a look and see what those specific advisories are. We see some of these images have this add-on feature here, and that lets us know that there's an SMU available that we can deploy. We may see subpackages, ROMON, other images like that we can upload and attach. We'll be able to see which devices have this image. So you see I have one device under this site that has this software image running, and this is the device we're going to be upgrading. We will also see as we scroll down here, some of these devices, these images, has a suggested and latest tag on it. That lets us know that the 1765 is the latest release version for this train, and it is the suggested one. So if we're running 17.6, we want to be on 17.65. You see, we'll also see the Cupertino train here on 17.94, the suggested and latest, and so on. As we look over further to the right, we see the golden images, and this is letting us know what images have been defined as a golden image. By default, we're going to see either this import icon or these download icons. If I scroll down, you'll see that we have the download icon here. That's what you'll generally see when you first come into DNA Center. And this is letting us know that the image can be downloaded if we want it to be. And then when we choose to download the image, we can choose to go ahead and make it a golden image if we want, or just download it and then later perform that setting. After the image has been downloaded, we're going to see these stars here that are unshaded. If I click on one of the stars, and in this case we're going to go down to our 1765, and I'm going to make that a golden image. So I'm just going to click on that star, and I'm just going to click OK. This is just letting us know that it's going to check our devices to let us know what devices it applies to. It's going to do those pre-checks that we talked about. Yeah. It's now tagging, and now it's going to then take a look at the devices. Any devices that are of the 9300 family at this site that's not running that software version will now be out of compliance, and we'll be able to see that in the inventory or pull up reports about that. The other thing I want to let you know is that besides this regular star, gold star, you can see that we can have this kind of outlined image, and that lets us know that it's assigned for some roles. Over here on the right, we see that all roles are defined. We can click on the pencil here, and we can choose to only apply this golden image to our core device, distribution, border router, access. So we can pick and choose what type of device role has been assigned, what image we want to apply to it. And we can also apply tags, specific tags that we can create ourselves and create rules to automatically tag our devices. So we can choose certain tags to apply this image to. Now, once I've set this as a golden image, the next time I onboard a device with plug-and-play onboarding and assign it to this site, then this image is going to be available to be deployed to that device automatically during that plug-and-play onboarding process. Now that we've set a device, an image for a golden image, we're going to head over to our inventory. And again, we're at the DNAC HQ site. And I can see that I have the 9300 here. And I'll hop over to my inventory focus. And I see that it's non-compliant. So if I click on my non-compliant, what I should see is here that my software image is not correct. So the golden image should be 1765, and I'm running 1733. We can also change our focus over to our software images focus, and then we can see that this device is marked to needs update. And if I click on there, I'm going to see the pre-checks that were run. So I see the startup config check, the config register check, there's enough free space, all of these things that we talked about before have been completed. If any of these are flagged as negative status, then we can go in, make whatever changes needs to be made. We can resync the device, and then we can redo the checks. Once this is all clear, then we can look at doing the software image update workflow. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is go ahead and schedule maintenance on this device. So I'm going to set it for now until 04. I'm not going to have it recurring. Just going to go ahead and submit. Let's move the time up a little bit. Okay. So I now have my maintenance window created. Okay. If you'll notice, we also see that we have a distribution pending status. What this means is that I do not have the image distributed to that device yet. So if we had chosen to distribute the image, then I can distribute it, and then this OS update would be that activation is pending. That lets me know that it already has a copy of the image on the device, it just hasn't been activated yet. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and head back over to my inventory page here, and I am now going to select the device, and I'm going to go to Actions, Software Image, and Image Update. Now a reminder, I am running 235, so there are a couple things that may look a little different if you're not running that yet. We see that we have the device listed here. I'm going to click Next. We have the Distribute section of the software image update process, and we see our software distribution checks. We see this is our pre-checks that are run, making sure that the device should be upgraded if it's a fabric device, and then checking for flash, make sure there's enough space for it. We can also add a new check if we want to perform whatever commands that we want to run, and when we want to run it, if it's pre or post check, or what type of device we want to run it against. Okay. Now we have the activation. Now if I just wanted to do a distribution, I would tell it to skip activation and then continue on to do the scheduling. In this case, I want to do the activation, and we see all the pre and post checks for our activation. Looking at our spanning tree, our CDP neighbors, checking our interfaces, the configuration register, making sure it's ready for the update ahead of time, our startup configuration check, and then our show IP route. This is a custom one that we created that just runs show IP route, so we can take a look at it beforehand and afterwards. When I click Next, we have the option to do the scheduling. So we have the software distribution side that we can schedule, and then the software activation side. So we can have completely different schedules for them. And you see that if we do have the ITSM integration, we can choose later, schedule it, and then that will kick off the change management process in our ServiceNow. In this case, I'm going to deploy the image now, and then I'm going to activate the software image after distribution. So we're going to do it immediately. I'm going to leave this unchecked, but if we wanted to clean up the previous image, then we can check this and it'll do a cleanup of the older images that may be on the device. Click Next. And we see the review. And we're going to validate everything and submit the process. We now have the software image update process kicked off. You can see that we're in progress. We see that we have distribution in progress. I can click on See Details, and we can see the different steps that's going through. We can see the pre-distribution checks. And we're going to let this run and then come back as we get close to the completion. All right, and here we are back. It's been about 20 minutes. As you can see, it's calculating our duration here. We see that the distribution took 3.5 minutes. We see the pre-distribution operations, actual distribution was all successful. And then we can take a look at our activation and see all of the different steps and how long it took for each of the steps. We can now head over to our checks and take a look at our pre and post checks. We see our spanning tree. We have a pre and post check. Take a look. That's the only difference. That's fine. Look at our CDP neighbors. The only difference is this hold time. That's fine. And so on through the checks. Okay. And if we refresh our inventory here, we can see that we have the 9300 running 1765. The device is up to date. And if we head back over to our inventory, we can see that we're now compliant with our software image 1765. We are still under our maintenance window, so if we had other work we needed to do on this switch, we could do that without causing some alerts in our assurance dashboard. That completes the software image management session for today. Thank you for joining me. Hope you have a good rest of your day. Thank you.